A really interesting presentation. We've had a few different presentations over the last couple of days, but we haven't looked at civil engineering at all. So it's a real opportunity to find out about a completely different sector within the construction industry. So I'll just hand you over to Shona just now. Thanks, Shona.
Thanks for that, Stuart. Good morning, everybody. I'm delighted that you've invited Amey to join this amazing network this morning. My name's Shona Haney. I'm the Business Support Manager, but I'm delighted to introduce Kelly McNee, who's a civil engineer with Amey, and she's working on a local project that many of you will be aware of in your local area. Georgina Andrew, apprentice who lives up in the Huntly area near Inverurie, and we've got Lee Deham and Sam Rinto. Georgina, Lee and Sam are all graduate apprentices, and I wanted to introduce them to you all this morning just to give you a flavour for what opportunities there are out there for apprentices, and in particular in civil engineering. And I'm delighted to introduce Kelly and Georgina as women in engineering, and obviously this being Women in Engineering's International Day, so thanks for joining us, girls. So the chat and learn session this morning, I've made the introductions. I'm going to be introducing you to Amey. Many of you will maybe know about what civil engineering is. Perhaps some of you don't, so I want to kind of give you a flavour for what engineering is. What do civil engineers do, and who are civil engineers? A bit about what is required to become an engineer, what skills are needed, and then subjects that perhaps you're studying at the moment or you have an interest, and routes into engineering. And then Kelly's going to introduce you to a project that's on your doorstep, which give you a flavour for what actually engineers do. So a bit about Amey. We are a company based in the UK. We have offices in Motherwell and in Edinburgh. We're a civil engineering consultancy, but we mainly, our section deals mostly with roads and bridges. However, we've got other parts of the business deal in rail and utilities. We have over 16,000 employees. We've got a 2.1 billion turnover. We're 100-year-old last year, and I'm delighted that we're a real living wage employer. And this just gives you an idea of where we are in Scotland. From away up where Georgina is, up in the north of Scotland, to the borders, Dumfries and Galloway, and you'll see a huge big presence in the Central Belt, obviously supporting North Lanarkshire Council. We deal with schools, airports, railways, and that gives you a flavour for where we are. We also, you'll see the GO Amey Scotland, the Scottish Prison Service. We also deal with that contract. Civil engineering, obviously, I'm talking to you about this morning. However, Amey employ a number of employees, from painters to drivers to horticultural, landscape architects, QSs, solicitors, accountants, and administrators. So we've got a whole raft of opportunities for employment. So I'm now going to pass you over to Lee, who's going to talk about the next slides.
Yeah, thanks, Shauna. Hi everyone, I'm Lee and I'm a graduate apprentice in Amey, and I work in the Motherwell office in the roads team. So I'll just go through a slide about what civil engineering actually is, because it can be quite a confusing term, but civil engineering could be described as the built environment around us. So it can be anything from roads to bridges to tunnels and railways, hospitals and airports. So everything you see around you in the built environment, there's been at least some input from a civil engineer within that. If I could just jump on to the next slide about what civil engineers actually do. So it's quite a broad scope of work for civil engineers. They can work in investigations, feasibility and develop proposals, work with clients. The client that I work for in my team is Transport Scotland, so it's a government body. Design work, which I also work on as well, using different software such as AutoCAD, and developing our skills through that, doing some engineering drawings. Health and safety, which is always a big part. Planning and programming, and also site supervision during the actual construction phase. So that's me for my slides.
Thank you, Lee. And now we're on to Georgina.
So hi, I'm Georgina. I'm based up near Aberdeen and I am a graduate apprentice with Amey. So civil engineers can have many different backgrounds and work in a variety of different disciplines. Some examples of these are working in highways, structures, geotechnics, landscaping, and environmental teams. An engineer can be based on site or in the office. Usually there's a mixture of both, and some can see a project right through from design to completion and the thing actually being built on the ground. Next slide, please. So there are a number of different skills required for engineering. The list we're about to show doesn't include all of them, but the ones shown are definitely ones that civil engineers use every day. So some examples of these are problem solving, designing and being creative, calculating things, communication and teamwork, data analyzing, applying science to the real world, forward planning, and paying attention to detail. Next slide, please. So something you can think about is what types of skills you have. So some examples could be you're maybe a really good communicator, or you really enjoy working in teams, and also have a think about some that you maybe aren't so confident at. So maybe you don't think you're very creative, or you don't think you are very organized. So think about ways you can improve these skills, and that will make you good for being a future engineer if you choose that career.
Thank you, Georgina.
Thanks.
And now finally, Sam.
Hi, I'm Sam. Much like Lee, I work in the Eurocentral office in Motherwell, and I also work in the roads, dealing with Transport Scotland and working a lot on getting the design and health and safety work. So I'm going to talk about some subjects that are useful for engineering. So I'd say the main subjects are maths, physics and English, which are what most universities look for when applying, but this changes to depend on the uni, obviously. So always make sure to check that, depending on what course and what university you want to study at. There are also some other useful subjects, or there's a lot of useful subjects, sorry. Such things such as computing and designing technology, which is obviously good for using different software like Office packages and Excel spreadsheets and getting to know that before you start, which is always very useful. Then there are also topics like geography and languages, which are also good for things like groundworks, which we do a lot of in engineering, and languages, obviously dealing with people from all over the world. So now we'll talk about the different routes to becoming a civil engineer. There are kind of two main routes when becoming an engineer or becoming pretty much any job. The first route I'll talk about is the apprenticeship, which is where you work and learn at the same time. So that's really useful, obviously, getting a lot of hands-on experience while you're working and being able to use that for your qualification at the same time. So I think most of the apprentices here, we study 1 day a week and we work 4 days a week for our degree, which is obviously, and it's obviously very good to get paid at the same time while we work. But another way you can get in is by studying a course like an HNC at college, or going straight into a degree and then trying to get a job after that. But a good website if you're looking for an apprenticeship is apprenticeships.scot, which I think a lot of us used when we were applying for our apprenticeships, and they have a lot of vacancies that you can filter by what you're really looking for.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Not to put you off, but the Sam, Lee and Georgina explained that sometimes you're in the office and sometimes you're out in site. So this is just a flavour for where site may be. It could be out in a motorway, but these two guys are up in the Forth Road Bridge. So that's just a flavour for the kind of work that some of our apprentices get involved with. So now I'm going to pass over to Kelly McNee, who's going to talk about the Ravens Creek Infrastructure Access Project. Thank you, Kelly.
Hi everyone. So I've been with Amey for just over 6 years now, and I didn't take the apprenticeship role, but I took the 5 years at uni like Sam described. But both roles are really good, but I can see the benefit of studying whilst you learn. You get hands-on experience and you really do get like a mixture of everything, and it kind of sets you up for your future career. But today I will be talking about the Ravenscraig Infrastructure Access South project, which is probably on quite a few of your doorsteps. So this is a multidisciplinary project, and it stretches from the roundabout at Ravenscraig Sports Centre at the top left of the picture, and stretches all the way down to the town centre of Motherwell. So this is going to incorporate a new dual carriageway, a 3-arm roundabout, and a new roundabout in Motherwell itself. So I'm one of the roads designers for the project, and my role is to design roads, junctions, local accesses and pedestrian routes. I work alongside structural designers who designed the West Coast Main Line structure, which goes under the railway. I also work with traffic engineers who do traffic modelling, and they suggest junction layouts that we can design up. Work with geotechnical engineers who investigate ground conditions, and they offer solutions for slope stability and retention. Work with drainage engineers who determine the optimum outflow locations and any suds ponds that we need to drain any water away. Work with electrical engineers who offer advice on utilities and any cabling and electrical requirements we need for the project, and also work with environmental and landscaping engineers who ensure that we don't adversely affect the land and the ecology of the area, whilst we enhance our design at the same time by offering some green spaces. Civil engineering is part and parcel of most of these disciplines, so regardless of what topics you study at uni, if there's one in particular you like, civil engineering is a route into most of these disciplines. Next slide, please, Shona. So as part of the works, we have a lot of scheme considerations to take into consideration. So for Ravenscraig, the initial investigatory work was around the ground investigation. So this was completed by the geotechnical engineers. This lets us know the type of soil on site, any rock levels below the ground that we might have to use, any subsurface water that's present, and any potential contaminants in the area that we want to remove from site. We also carry out site visits beforehand, so we can see the lie of the land ourselves and what we have to incorporate into our designs and what constraints we have to work around. So, and we also look at the local residential and commercial properties, so we don't adversely affect these, because we want to make sure that our design includes the residents and will benefit them when it's constructed. The traffic modelling is also undertaken, and we base that on future traffic flows, and this gives us an idea of what capacity we need to design the roads and junctions to, and this will help us avoid congestion and allow us to pick an appropriate footprint for the road and the junction. So in Ravenscraig, in the instance of Ravenscraig, we're going for a dual carriageway through the brownfield site, and we're going to go for a large roundabout to cope with the capacity for future flows. For the design process, we take a lot of information from the investigation stage into consideration, and we use this going forward. So as a roads engineer, as roads engineers in general, we tend to design first, and then other disciplines will have an input into our design and we'll input into theirs. So it's very collaborative. So for roads designers, we look at the topography of the land and what constraints we have to avoid. Then we use the DMRB design standards to help us develop the road corridor. And this is part and parcel of any design works. We need a standard to work to, so we know what the base is, and we can work from that to continue the design into detailed design. We also coordinate with structures and the drainage teams to ensure that we've got enough headroom going through the structure, and we've got appropriate road levels that will be able to drain, so we don't have any surface water or any flooding problems in the future. We do have a lot of optioneering to determine which is the best design to take forward. So although the last slide showed one plan, that's taken a lot of time to get to. So there's been like lots and lots of different options that we've went through to get to that final one. So it can be quite a time-consuming process, but it's really good once you get to the end of it and you can see your design take shape. So each design will have a pro and con based on its constructability, costs, and impact to the environment, impact to the residents, to name a few. So that's part of our optioneering, is to make sure we get the best design possible. So once the optimum design has been developed and every detail considered, we will then go to tender for a construction company to bid for to take the job to site. So the construction is the last phase, and the contractors will develop a construction phase plan to determine which section is built first, and how they're going to keep traffic moving through the construction so that we don't adversely affect anyone. They'll also create a bill of quantities and cost every item out to complete the construction, and they'll develop a programme of works which will show every part of the project that's going to be built, and they'll try and stick to that, as if the programme slips, there's most likely going to be a cost implication. So each of these phases, there'll be a civil engineer involved at some point, and civil engineering offers a lot of variety. So whether you want to be on site investigating to begin with, whether you want to be in an office putting the designs through software and onto paper, or whether you want to be on site at the end seeing the designs come to life, civil engineering is a great way of seeing all three of those stages. And roads, bridges, drainage, geotechnics, there's just so many different disciplines you could be involved in, but it is a very worthwhile career. And although each project that I've been involved in you've been designing a road, each location is totally different, so you're never just designing the same road twice. You're having to think about different solutions and different problems you have to overcome. So I'm a little biased being an engineer myself, but I do think it's a very worthwhile career. So hopefully in the near future you'll see the designs that we've shown in the local area come to life, and you can see it yourself as well whilst walking about. So that's me.
Thank you, Kelly. The next slide is just obviously any questions, and it's great to see particularly primary schools asking questions this morning. So I'm going to try and answer, if you don't mind, Kelly, the primary one with your support. How do you design a road? Well, obviously, as Kelly's spoken about, you've got to see how the land is, whether it's, and they do assessments to see what the land's like, and then there's various issues you've got to consider, how the road's going to affect properties and the environment. So that's some of the considerations how you design a road. St Mary's Primary, do you have to survey people who live in the area before you begin a design? Yes, consultation and engagement with the community is very important, and we'll look to see how it would impact individuals as a result of the road. Is there any plans for a football pitch in Caldercrook? I'm sorry, I can't answer that one, but a civil engineer would be the one that would look at the drainage and see if there was any solutions that could be considered. Mrs. Simpson, what does a civil engineer earn? We have graduate starting salary at 26,500, and as you progress, the salary increases. I want to kind of ask the apprentices, mainly for the secondary pupils, a bit about how you all get into to being an apprentice. Sam, Lee, and Georgina. Georgina first. Did you always want to be a civil engineer?
So I studied physics and engineering science in secondary school, and I really enjoyed the engineering that I did and found out a little bit about all different types. And then I was really interested in art at the time as well and considered architecture. But then I found out about civil engineering, which combines creativity and maths and physics. And so I decided that was the correct option for me, and found out that Amey was offering an apprentice opportunity in my area. So good. I applied.
Sam, you came to Amey in a different route, didn't you?
Yeah, so when I was at high school, I didn't really know what I was wanting to do. I had different options. I kind of kept my options open by picking a kind of wide variety of subjects. But then I decided to do a week's work experience at Amey, at the office now I work in now. And I went through all the different departments and done a day in each department and kind of learned what it was all about. Because I was the same as I didn't know what a civil engineer did. I just thought, they do something with design, but I wasn't really sure. So then once I done my week's work experience, it really helped me think it was something that I wanted to pursue. So then after that, I started applying for apprenticeships, and luckily enough, I got one.
Good. You didn't go straight to the university. You did a HNC, didn't you?
Yes.
You
I
went through that route. So you've worked your way up to, and now you're at university, aren't you?
Yeah, now.
Yep.
I done a 2-year HNC, just the same as an apprenticeship, but I done 1 day a week at college, got my HNC, and now I'm at uni doing a degree. That's
Right.
the same 1 day a week.
Good. Lee, how do you manage to study and work? That must be quite difficult.
Yeah, so it's quite well balanced though, because we've got a day a week. Every Friday is my university day, so I work Monday to Thursday, and then on Friday kind of drop everything and focus on university and studying. So getting that 8 hours a week programmed into your actual working week helps a lot, and also doing a little bit after work each night sort of takes the pressure off on a Friday. And over the years, you kind of get used to balancing it out, and you get used to it over time. And it's actually not as people think it sounds like a lot of work, because studying is hard on its own and working is hard on its own. But there is a way to find a good balance, and I really enjoy it.
Sam, what's a typical day like for you as an apprentice working for Amey?
A typical day for me is usually coming in, obviously looking at my emails, checking all that stuff, then starting working, doing some designs, and then I usually go to different meetings or have to do different works or different trainings. So it's a very varied day, working on different schemes all the time.
Good. I'll go back to the questions. Are there any civil engineers at Amey involved in renewable energy projects? There are, and I'm sorry, I can't answer what sort of work they do. I would need to investigate that, and if you want, I can respond to you directly, Mr. Brown. Primary 7, Mrs. Craig, want to know what's the most famous project that Amey have been involved in. From a consultant point of view, we've been involved in quite a few projects, such as the South Queens Ferry Crossing, A96 up in Inverurie. We're looking at dual carriageway, designing it. Maybole Bypass. I don't know if any of you have heard of the 77 Maybole Bypass. We've worked with the contractor recently and just opened up the Maybole. There's lots of projects we've been involved in, and obviously the Ravenscraig Infrastructure Access South project. Mr. Brown, if a student has not studied physics, would they still have a chance to get into an apprenticeship with Amey? There are certain criteria, but yes, that we would need to look at other options. There is routes, Mr. Brown, like if the student wanted to go into do an HNC just the same as Sam has done, then there's an option to get in that way into civil engineering. Any other questions?
If you don't mind, can I just ask Georgina and Kelly, obviously it's International Women's Day today, and
Yep.
2 young women working in an area that's predominantly been seen as a male-dominated industry over the years. How have you found it, sort of starting your careers in this industry?
I don't really see gender being an issue. I'm always treated the same. A bit like the other guys, I studied maths and physics and sciences at school, so engineering was kind of the route for me. I enjoy numbers rather than letters, so I much preferred like knowing that 2 + 2 is 4, but in English sometimes your interpretation can be a bit different. But no, I think there is a push to try and get more women into the role, but I've had no negative no negativity in the workplace. It's a Amey in particular is quite a nice place to work, and everybody treats you the same regardless of your background at all. So no, it's I don't see it as being an issue at all.
I'm similar. I don't see gender as being an issue in the workplace. I work with loads of inspiring women that help me every day, and I've met a lot of engineers as well. So yeah, no problems with it.
That's great to hear, and hopefully, you know, any young women that are on the call today in primary or secondary that might want to consider a career, it's great to hear that there's no barriers to progressing and doing well in the industry, and everyone's very welcome and very supportive in helping you sort of achieve your dreams, which is